Can you imagine turning £50,000 into 4.1 billion?
Sounds impossible, right? Well, Richard Harpin did it.
Richard Harpin, one of the UK's most successful founders,
built the giant that is Homeserve.
But it wasn't always easy.
The bailiffs arrived from customs and excise to take away our office furniture. I had to borrow £10,000 from my mother without my dad finding out.
And here's the kicker. It wasn't luck. He didn't grind away in the daily hustle. Richard played the long game.
I remember getting on my office desk in front of the 23 people that thought they're about to be made redundant and saying, yes, we've made it. But the lesson here is don't go too big until you've proved out your model.
You're known for 8 secrets to building a £1 billion company. So can you tell us those secrets?
Yeah, absolutely. Secret number 1 is...
So you sold your business for 4.1 billion. For most entrepreneurs, that's an absolute pipe dream. You started with £50,000. Can you tell us what the business was and how you got to that scale?
Yeah, this started as running a business on the side when I was a brand manager at Procter & Gamble.
Right.
And started doing up houses in Newcastle upon Tyne and letting them out to young professionals by the room, 40 quid a week. And do you know what the biggest problem was? All of those tenants would ring up me or my business partner and say, we've got water pouring out of a radiator, or the boiler's broken down, or there's a blocked drain in the backyard, and we could not get a Geordie plumber for love nor money on a Friday evening in Newcastle. And so that was the idea.
Wow.
And so we
just Geordie plumbers.
Yeah, we hired a couple of them. We called the business A1 Fast Fix to get in the front of the plumbing and heating sections in Yellow Pages.
Good,
Love
yeah.
that. Marketing
And
hat.
the work started to come in, but the problem was that the cost of running the business and the high cost of Yellow Pages at the time, and the fact that people only have a plumbing emergency every 5 years, meant that we didn't get repeat business and the economics of the business just didn't work. And we weren't prepared to overcharge customers for that one-off plumbing emergency. So we thought, we've got to find a way for this business to work. We'd put our life savings of £50,000 into the business and it had run out. The bailiffs arrived from customs and excise to take away our office furniture. I had to borrow £10,000 from my mother without my dad finding out, because he'd have been a bit worried about entrepreneurialism. He was in the civil service, chartered surveyor.
Wow.
We borrowed £10,000 from a friend and said, we'll give you, if we make the business work, we'll give you a 20% interest rate, or 10% in the business. He chose 20% interest rate and has been regretting it ever since. And thought, isn't there a link between a plumbing service and water companies? And so my business partner went round 15 UK water companies saying, we've got this great business in Newcastle, will you invest? And they all said no, with one exception. And that was a little water company in north of Birmingham, South Staffs Water. And they said, oh, we've been looking at a plumbing service. We'll put in £500,000, but we want half of the business. And we got no option. We said, absolutely, yeah, we'll do that deal. We'd run out of money. Our backs are up against the wall. Not the right time, really, to get an investor.
Yep.
And we did. And so used that money. I was then working full-time in the business, started hiring more people, and the business grew. But fundamentally, I hadn't found the right business model. So all that we did was got into more Yellow Pages. We did get a bit of work referred from the water company customer base. But every month the business grew and the break-even line got further away. I thought, well, we'll get economies of scale, but no, that doesn't work.
You've said copying is good in business. So is this where copying really came into fruition for you?
Yeah, we got to a stage at the end of that first year after the water company investment. I'd burnt through the whole of that £500,000. So the losses had gone up from £10,000 a month to £50,000 a month. There was £10,000 left. My colleagues and friends, even my business partner, was saying, Richard, your days as an entrepreneur are over. Your dream that I had from the age of 4, you better go back and work for Procter & Gamble. And you know what? This was my final chance to make it big. And I was determined to do it. And I'd got to find a way through. And I think sometimes on those occasions, you have a little bit of luck. And I did. Somebody rang me and said, have you seen this little water company in Surrey? They've developed like this plumbing insurance model. And I went and found some of their customers that had joined up. I interviewed some of them in the Holiday Inn round a board table and said, why did you join up to this scheme, and what do you like about it and what do you not like about it? And they said, well, it covers the underground water pipe in my garden, but they come out and inspect it every year. I don't need an inspection, because if it's leaking, then either there won't be much pressure coming out of my tap or no water, or there'll be a great fountain coming out of my lawn. So we took out the expensive inspection. We built in plumbing emergency cover that they didn't have, and block drain cover. And literally, with the last £10,000 in the business, we sent out a mail shot, branded as South Staffordshire Water, to 1,000 of their customers. And lo and behold, 38 customers signed up, a 3.8% response rate, sending in their cheque for £50 for our plumbing emergency cover. I remember getting on my office desk in front of the 23 people that thought they're about to be made redundant and saying, yes, we've made it. And almost the rest is history. We rolled out that business model, signed up all of the other water companies that had originally said, no, we're not going to invest in your business, to a sort of what we would now call an affinity membership model. We paid them a commission for using their brand, for running fantastic customer service, and we funded the marketing, and they got the credit from their customers for the peace of mind it brought and the fantastic service when a customer would call a free phone number when they'd got water pouring out of a radiator or pouring through the ceiling.
It's interesting though, on the surface, 38 customers is not a big deal. So 38 customers with £50. So, you know, that couldn't have saved your business from the £10,000 hole, but is it mostly about signal, like noticing that something has got a reaction?
Well, I think the lesson I'm taking from, I mean, one, that hyped me up so much, that talk there. The idea of like punching the air and being like, we're still in fucking business. I love that. And I'm hyped now, I can feel it. But the lesson I would say for people from that is like, the business isn't working. You've gone to another business that's working. You've gone, I can see this thing is working over here. You've interviewed their customers and then you found your model. I think to most entrepreneurs who are struggling, do that tomorrow. Like, go and look at a company that's working and go, I can see how they make money here. I'm just going to go replicate that. Unbelievable lesson. It's so undervalued as well. And
it's probably more common in your day. In our day, people don't think about go in person, pick up the phone,
go to Holiday Inn.
100%, genuinely. Like, that in-person thing's so important.
So that was about copying, pivoting, testing, learning. And I knew that moment where we got those 38 people signed up, that when we rolled it out, it was going to work. And it did. So we sent out a bigger mailing, and then we went round and signed up all of those other water companies. And the business went from that losing £500,000 in its first full year after the backing of South Staffs Water to making £750,000 profit in that following year.
I think one of the lessons here, people look for something viral, right? So today people are like, oh, I sent that mailer out. I didn't get 100,000 customers or whatever I'm told on the internet is viral. No, that's not what you're looking for. You're looking for something that people meaningfully want back. And if your previous number rate of a response was 5 or 6 and you're getting 38, that might not be 10,000, but it's significantly bigger to say, focus on this problem, do it again. Like, just niche down there and do more of this. I think that's really, really interesting.
And actually, in a digital world, it is easier to copy things online and put up a website and measure the response. But the lesson here is, don't go too big until you've proved out your model.
That I think that is such a takeaway, because VCs right now, there's this like weird thing happening where you get a little bit of proof, and in the environment we're in, especially in 2021, they just poured gasoline on every half good idea.
Yeah.
And you have it now. This is like a graveyard of these startups that got, tens of millions of pounds and never had a business. And I think that you're so right. Like, you've got to find that underlying business model and margin where you think at scale this will actually work.
Yes. And that is also about that sort of constant evolution of how do we then develop the model further. So having then rolled out, signed up more water companies in the UK, then we were thinking, what about electrical wiring cover? What if the lights go out? What about boiler breakdown cover? So we added in additional products, and quite often businesses would ignore the upsell, the cross-selling. It is 5 times cheaper to sell the next product to your existing customer. So think a bit more about that. So again, that's sort of evolving the product range.
Yeah.
But don't be tempted to do something that is 2 steps removed from the business.
Yeah.
And a good example of that was we got into furniture warranties for retailers.
How did that go?
Not very well.
Yeah.
And so in the end, we sold off that business to focus back on just sticking to the core.
Yeah. And obviously you did go on to expand this quite rapidly. So Homeserve grew to 8.5 million members and 10,000 staff. What do you think, looking back now, was the single biggest challenge for scale?
It was about, we're operating in, I think, in the UK market is a great place to found a business, but we are a small country, and therefore most businesses, in order to create scale, need to be thinking about, will their model work in a foreign country? So I was about 8 years in and thinking, I wonder whether our Homeserve product would work in a different country. And actually went to France. And when people say, why did you go to France as your next country to check out the model? I say because it's notoriously difficult to run a business in France, very strict employment laws, and therefore it's a torture test. If we make it work in France, then we'll know that it's going to work in most countries around the world.
Should you not have gone for the easier place?
Well, actually, the reality was South Staffs Water were a listed company. They were 30% owned by General des Eaux, now known as Veolia. So I thought, well, that's a really good link. Actually, even though they were an investor and the biggest water company in France, it still took a year to persuade them that we should do a joint venture with them in France. We eventually did do it, and the difference was we listened to them, and they said, your British model is not going to work in our country. You need to do above-the-line advertising, newspapers, posters, TV advertising, and that was all really expensive. And you need to come up with a name that is distinctive, and we called the business Domio. To me, it sounded more like a pizza delivery business than a plumbing assistance membership business, and that didn't work. Just as we're about to say, let's give up on our international dream, we went back to the original model in the UK, and we tested that. So direct mail, we put the General des Eaux name on there, General des Eaux Services, and a picture of the lawn and the water pouring out of it, and that original product of underground water supply pipe cover, and guess what? It worked. So back to that point around when you're going into internationally, don't be tempted to change the model. You obviously need to change it for local regulations, but stick to that model, and that's what will work. And if it doesn't, then you're in the wrong country.
Over the last decade, Chris and I have started over a dozen businesses. It's not something we're particularly proud of, by the way, but it means we've had a lot of exposure to different business banks. You try one, you're not so happy, try another, you're not so happy. The cycle goes on. By this point, between us, we were laughing, but we tried them all. There was one we actually hadn't, and it's because they're newer, and we weren't really familiar with the fact that they had this option. So we wanted to try that based on our own knowledge and compare it. And I tell you what, it is head and shoulders above, and we are thrilled to be using and partnering with Wise Business.
Basically, Wise Business is the only account you need to get paid, pay employees and suppliers, and manage your business's money in multiple currencies.
Exactly. With Wise, you can do business across the world, pay, get paid, and manage your business's international money with ease.
And look, here's the thing. You actually save money as you grow. No hidden fees, no sneaky markups on exchange rates, and no ongoing subscription costs. It's like finding money in your pocket that you didn't know was there.
But my favorite part, and this is crucial, it's just so damn easy to use. I know because I'm the one who set it up for this company.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, you're lazy. I was never going to get you to do it. But anyway, you can make payments in as little as a few seconds, and it integrates with all your business software.
You can easily withdraw funds from Amazon, Stripe, and more in multiple currencies. And it connects to accounting softwares like Xero and QuickBooks. But Dan, what about security?
Well, as you know, every time you try and log in and take money out of the account without checking with us first, the security is amazing. They've got two-factor authentication, a 24/7 customer support team, and a fraud team working around the clock to keep Chris off our money. I could go on about all of the amazing features, but seriously, when you're a small company or even just starting one, there's already so much going on that having a payment service that's quick, easy, and, by the way, most importantly, reliable is just an absolute necessity. And for that reason, we use Wise. If you want to get on board, it's simple. Just head to wise.com/business to learn more about how Wise could work for your business.
So Richard, you're known for 8 secrets to building a £1 billion company. So can you tell us those secrets?
Yeah, absolutely. Secret number 1 is copy and pivot. And we're taught at school that copying is bad, copying homework. Actually, in business, I think it's really good. I'm a great believer in second mover advantage. So find a business that has a great idea, that's made it work pretty well, and say, actually, how can we take that idea and improve it and make it work better? And one of the mistakes I made was trying to grow the business too big before we'd found that magic business model, which meant that we burnt through a lot of capital. Don't do that. Try and just stick with your own money, with friends and family money, until you prove the model. And then when you want to go bigger, then that's secret number 2, find an investor.
So that's 2. What about number 3?
Yeah, number 3 is get some coachment. And I actually did. I went to INSEAD last year and dedicated 12 days of my time to training and qualifying as a business coach. And I think before I went on the course, I'd got no idea really what the difference was between a mentor and a coach. And what I learned was that a coach is really, in medical terms, is like the X-ray machine. It's the diagnostic working out whether you have broken your arm or not. So a business coach will be trained to ask you lots of questions about your issue or opportunity, help you think about what are the options that you could consider, but will never ever give you the answer. A mentor is somebody with a lot of business experience stored up in their mind over 20 or 30 years, and then will say, have you thought about this? Now, I don't think mentoring is good in its own right if you haven't done some coaching to tease out an understanding of that coachee's issue or opportunity. So as part of my dissertation in qualifying as a coach, I came up with coachment.
That's a really careful balance. And I think it's really interesting what you've said. That concept of coachment sounds, as entrepreneurs listening to that, bang on.
I waited too long to get a mentor. When I did, it was about how can I grow our American business in Homeserve quicker? And I sought out a guy called Nigel Morris, the co-founder of Capital One. He was a Brit, but he was Americanized, made his business model work in the US before he brought it to the UK. He said, you need to be between Boston and New York and Washington, D.C. on the East Coast for a UK business trying to make it big in America. And then, who have you got running the US business? And I said, a fantastic Brit. Shook his head violently and said, no, if you want to be taken seriously, ultimately, and seen as an American business, you've got to have an American leader. And
this is go global with locals.
And that takes us to secret number 6, which is go global with locals.
Okay, so far we've got copy and pivot, coachment, going global with locals, and you also had investment, obviously, as well. So we're halfway through your 8 points. So at this point, I think we've covered £500 million worth of value. What's the next $500 million? How are we going to get there?
Yeah, the next one may sound a bit strange in this digital world, but it's bricks and clicks and paper. And let me just give you a few examples of why. So one of the businesses that is part of Homeserve that I chose to reinvest in after Brookfield had bought the whole of Homeserve is a business called Checkatrade. And guess what? 15% of our nearly 60 million web visitors a year come from a folded bit of A4 paper that goes to 16 million households 6 times a year. And that's a different leaflet for every 50,000 households. There are 150 trades in there with tracked telephone numbers. So we know how many calls those trades are getting, whether they answer the phone and how quickly. But that bit of paper generates customers that don't all call the trade telephone number, but they go online to the Checkatrade marketplace and look at the digital part of the business. So a great example of the importance of paper generating clicks. The other one is there are loads of online businesses, but I believe that most of them need to have a retail presence.
What's the next secret you have for us?
It's evolution, not revolution.
Right.
And you can have revolution at the start of the business. That's the revolutionary idea that transforms a customer need. But you definitely don't want revolution and reinvention once you've proven out your business model. That is highly dangerous. It is 2 steps removed from what you're currently doing. And if we cast our minds back to Apple, and what were people thinking when Steve Jobs unfortunately died was, I'm worried about whether Apple will go on and grow in terms of shareholder value because they're not going to come up with a revolutionary new product. And the answer is they didn't really. AirPods, Apple Watch, goggles.
Yeah.
But actually, it was evolution of Apple Pay, Apple Music, cloud storage. So those were evolutionary products rather than revolutionary ones. And yet the value of Apple went from $100 billion when Steve unfortunately died to $2.5 trillion today.
The secret, according to Steve Jobs, of great product strategy is knowing what not to do. And that takes us nicely into your penultimate secret.
Yeah, which is have a not to do list.
See how smooth that transition was?
So smooth.
It took Richard by surprise.
Yeah, yeah, took me by surprise as well.
And if I asked this secret leader audience to put their hand up and say, how many of us today have a to-do list? I think most listeners would say, of course I do, because success is about getting stuff done every day. It is about execution. But I found it very difficult to have the discipline of having a not to-do list. But that's really, really important.
Yeah.
And if you just imagine how you come up with a not to-do list, and what you need to do is just think about answering 3 questions. And the first one is, what's your purpose, or what are you passionate about in business? Second one, and imagine these are overlapping concentric circles. The second question is, what's your unique selling proposition? Why are you better and different to your competitors? How can you be the best in the world at that? Or just the best in the UK? Or just the best in the part of the UK where you operate? But you need to be the best and you need to be different. And then thirdly, what's your monetization model? What's your economic engine? How are you going to make money? I'm a Yorkshireman. That's really, really important. So how about answering those 3 questions, if you haven't already, with your senior management team? And your answer needs to be 1 sentence of no more than 20 words. And that would become your mission and strategy. And then that is distributed and communicated every day, every week to every member of your business. And they read that and then they think, what am I doing today? And if they're doing things that don't fit with that mission and strategy, then they should stop doing it. And that should be on the not to do list.
So give us the last of the 8 secrets.
Yeah, and this is character. And that's the one that I originally sort of forgot about in terms of the 8 secrets. So that is sort of the secret that comes free, whether it's secret 9 or secret 0. But it's thinking about the characteristics of an entrepreneur that helps in making a business successful. So it is that persistence, just to keep going, the determination. It's about curiosity, learning every day, and that's about listening and reading and taking learning from elsewhere. It's a bit about that copying. It's about being low ego, being able to say, oh, my original idea didn't quite work, so I had to copy somebody else's, and then I needed to sort of change it a bit and pivot it and test and learn, and being able to say, I made a mistake, I got it wrong, but now we've got it right, and change direction. Yeah. So it's those sort of low ego things. It's about being non-political. It's about being focused on the good of the business, not our own careers. Those are the things that a leader, whether they're the CEO of the business, whether they're the founder, those are the things that are truly important.
So, Richard, we've just heard your 8 secrets to building a £1 billion company. And from someone who has done it, looking at the UK, looking at the US, looking at startups in general, what is the major mistake that you see founders and CEOs making that prevents them from hitting the type of scale that we're talking about?
I think it's around trying to do too much, trying to expand the business model, not staying focused enough, and thinking that they need to keep reinventing. And it's not reinvention, but it is constant evolution. And so if you look at one of the businesses that I admire is Next. And they have constantly evolved the model. So if you think back to men's clothing business that then became the Next, the paper directory that they printed, and then they've evolved that model into more stores, to the total platform, to having other people's brands and not just the Next brand, and international development. So constant evolution. And if you look back to some of those well-known brand names that didn't evolve, like Nokia, like Yellow Pages,
HMV,
all of those, they left it too late.
HMV,
so constant evolution, but not revolution, not things that are 2 stages removed from what you're currently doing.
You know what's funny about being an entrepreneur? Everyone thinks that we're these super productive machines, crushing it 24/7. But let me tell you a secret. Half the time, I'm just trying to figure out where I saved that one important file from 3 weeks ago.
Really? But you're so organized.
Yeah, well, I'm about to be, because I've been testing the HP OmniBook Ultra Flip, and oh my God, this thing is like having a personal assistant that actually knows what they're doing.
All right.
You know those days when you've got back-to-back calls? Well, you're about to make some great first impressions, because the Poly Camera Pro is insane. It tracks your face, fixes the lighting, and makes you look like you've had a professional film crew, even when you're working from your kitchen.
Yeah, it's tough to focus when you're out of focus.
I might legitimately look better in the Poly Camera Pro than I do in person. I shouldn't even bother having in-person meetings anymore. Anyway, here's where it gets really interesting. You know, we're always talking about working smarter and not harder.
Yeah, that's very much your thing. I haven't quite mastered it like you just yet.
I've told you, delegate. Let the HP AI companion focus on the research so you can focus on what really matters. It can analyze documents, summarize reports, and even help you draft content. It can even summarize 10,000 words in seconds.
Wow, that's actually really amazing.
I know. Here's what I love most about the AI companion. It just helps you get to the point.
Yeah, I'm a vision person, so let's keep things at the top so we can make a decision and move forward.
Exactly. The AI companion can analyze an entire research paper in seconds, pull out the main insights, and even suggest action items. Work smarter with the right tools. Work doesn't have to feel like work. Look, I've built and sold companies worth millions, and I can tell you, the HP OmniBook Ultra Flip isn't just another laptop. It's like having an entire support team built into your computer. And here's the thing. Whether you're just starting out or scaling up, this is the kind of tech that actually makes the difference. It's not just fancy features. It's about giving you back time to focus on what matters, building your business. This isn't just an upgrade. It's an absolute game changer. And trust me, once you try it, you'll wonder how you ever managed without it.
For 10% off, use our code HPLoveWork. That's HPLOVEWORK. Valid until 31st of January. T's and C's apply. UK only. We just spoke to Herman Hauser. So he's the founder of ARM. 2 interesting things here. Unusually, Herman Hauser was the founder of Acorn Computers. And at a point, Acorn Computers was the biggest startup in the UK. And he did something that's actually completely antithetical to what you've just said. They were the biggest computer company, biggest startup in the UK. And they created a subset. They siphoned off this IP called ARM, which was a computer chip, which is now the world's most valuable IP. So, like speaking today, it's $180 billion value. So that's a very unusual story, of course. But something else he said, which I think resonates completely with you, is that the UK doesn't have a startup problem. There's loads of great entrepreneurs here, and we start many companies. We have a scale-up problem. We struggle to build big companies like Homeserve, like ARM. Why is that?
Because medium companies are the forgotten medium, and they need investment. They need coaching and mentoring and peer groups and all those things that I look back on and say, I could have done with a bit more of that. And so that's why we need to help those businesses, because we do need twice the number of large companies in the UK like Homeserve.
What do you think that the obsession that we have with like young founders who raise a couple of million, they get so much press, versus, you know, good size, predictable business growth in the UK? And we struggle to understand it, but why do you think there is an obsession with young founders now?
I think it sounds more glamorous. Startups, and I'm a big believer in startups, but we've got to help those maybe less glamorous, some of the medium-sized companies to grow through investment, through following the right models on how you develop internationally, and that's really, really important.
Yeah, we had an interview with Daniel Priestley recently, and do you remember he was saying that almost all of the successful founders that building valuable companies, etc., actually start in their 40s.
Yeah, it's wild.
That's the decade really where you're building meaningful sized companies. And
it's exciting for us. You're nearly there.
I knew you were going to get that dig in. I knew it. I set myself up too much. What do you think? Have you seen that? Have you seen that kind of data? Have you seen that in your own life, that actually your 40s tends to be when you're building businesses of meaningful scale and meaningful value, not just the ones that get the money, build the big valuations and then fall off a cliff and die?
Yeah, I think that I'm a big believer in second and third time entrepreneurs. People that have done it once and may have failed on the first or second time, or it didn't quite go according to plan, and then go again, and it can work. So those are really important, and it's, I think, because they've got that sort of confidence to say, I want to go again and build the next business. So good example would be Craig Waddington. He's an entrepreneur from Yorkshire, and his first business didn't work, which was bathroom showrooms on the high street, very expensive rents. And he then said, I want to go again, and I'm going to copy the Howdens model, which is have the showrooms on an industrial park, sell to both bathroom fitters and to homeowners. And he did that. And I was introduced to him when he'd got 40 showrooms open, and backed him with my own money. Today we're up to 141 showrooms. Wow. The business that's turning over £100 million of revenue, and can go much further. So he was effectively sort of a second-time entrepreneur, went at it again, and it's working really, really well. And one of the big things that he learnt coming from me was Craig is great with going and doing the buying in China, opening the new branches, but needed somebody that could run the day-to-day business, a proven chief exec that he could bring in. And he's now got that person, a guy called Adrian Bolton, who had built a big business in Eastern Europe. And so Easy Bathrooms is now going to go on and become hopefully a business that can triple in revenue.
And what is the difference between mid-size and large, in your opinion?
Over 250 employees would then be a large company. So it's getting that from I'm employing 15 people to getting to over 250 people.
Do you think that's interesting? Like, do you think that is the right metric? Like, philosophically, there's a nice angle to that, which is like you're employing people need employment. In the UK, that's important. And another, I failed a business personally in the past where we had too many people. And one of the main reasons we failed is I actually thought that it was a big glamorizing, awesome, look at me, I'm employing almost 100 people, I'm fucking awesome.
It's also how people identify their company size, isn't it?
100%. And I thought I was running a much bigger company, but we were losing money. We had too many people, and I really, maybe because I was younger, but I think I overemphasized the wrong metric. And now at Heights, we're trying to target £25 million with 19 people as our glamour target. And
I mean, that is cool.
Yeah, but they're so different, and I wouldn't be personally looking to hire 250 people if I could avoid it.
Yeah, I think that's a sort of an official measure for large company.
Yeah, of course.
But I agree, it is about, particularly in this digital world, is to say, how can we all scale businesses where we do it through automation?
Yeah.
And clearly AI is going to have a big role in that. As we automate call centers, then we'll have smaller call centers because they'll be run by voice bots. And I think that's really good news because as people who are currently call center operators will say, I've got an opportunity to take a new job, learn a new skill. In Checkatrade today, we're setting up trade schools. and that will be training people looking for a new career in some of the basic things that we do ourselves, but we'd rather not, like oven cleaning and handyman. How many people today on a bank holiday Monday don't really want to assemble their IKEA furniture? The only reason they do is because we can't get a handyman within the hour that's going to show up and charge a reasonable price to assemble that furniture. So the magic model of training people to do garden tidy-ups, handyman, all of those lower skilled trades, and then we can put them on an app in the way that we all use Uber. Checker Trade will be Uberized, and we'll be having those smaller jobs, making them easier for reluctant DIYers like all of us.
We spoke earlier a little bit about Ben Francis and what he did with hiring a CEO super early in his journey. And I haven't shared this yet on the podcast, but I started a new business 100 days ago. I think it's my 4th business now. I've had some great successes and so forth. And my second hire is effectively my managing director. And I think people are sort of obsessed about their own brilliance in running the company. But I actually think that you're so right. Like, Ben stepped back because he knew he couldn't do the day-to-day. It doesn't mean that he didn't do the work that helped the company get to where it was going. So, like, do you think that's something that all of us should focus on, is like splitting out our skills, as it were?
Yeah, I think the earlier the better. I think nobody better than the entrepreneur, I think, to identify the opportunity, the consumer need, the unique product proposition or service proposition, and make sure that that is figured out.
Yeah, what you're referring to really is product market fit, and actually your business specifically, uniquely, you've quickly found product market fit. I don't think hiring a CEO or MD without that is a good idea, because actually as the entrepreneur, you are the person figuring out what the market wants. You just happen to have figured that out really early.
Yeah, but and to your point, I think business has changed so much recently, right? You've got, like, I have a new business that is actually already a large business that most of the work is automated because of technology. And so I don't seek ever to hire a big team ever again. Like, I've had hundreds of staff before, and I don't necessarily aim to do that again. With technology now, it's just a completely different game.
Yeah, I was really lucky in Homeserve outside of America, where we'd got sort of 9 countries operating, and thought really need to bring in somebody that could run those countries and oversee them much better than me. And it was sort of over 3 years ago, I brought in a guy called Ross Clemo, and he's awesome. And so when Homeserve was sold, it was very easy for me to say, I want to step back. I really believe in the next stage of the Homeserve journey, and it's will be the most exciting chapter in Homeserve's history. And I can step back and become non-exec chairman and hand over to Ross, who can then become the full chief exec of Homeserve EMEA. Yeah. And which I would say do it much better than me.
Yeah, and I'd say it's such a great lesson. I sold a business, and I managed to actually leave the business in a year because I had pre-prepped the business for the sale. And so if you have someone in your business that can be the CEO, if you sell in the context of having a CEO, you can leave earlier. And I think that's when you sell and the business is so reliant on you, the company who buys you isn't just going to let you leave. And so I think that sort of future planning is so important to entrepreneurs.
If Chris and I built companies worth £100 million, but we only employed 50 people, would we fail your test? Would we still have to consider ourselves small businesses?
Because that's the plan.
Yeah, I think we need to look at where's the sales definition of large companies.
Remind me, what was the sales definition? Revenue?
I'm not sure what that is.
No, but you said, I think previously you said it was 250 people or...
At the bottom end, it's a medium-sized company has to be have sales of over £3 million
and a large...
and employing 15 people. I'm not sure what the sales definition of a large company is.
Want to know what kills big deals faster than anything? Security compliance. Honestly, it's a headache, and I don't know anyone who likes doing it. But there is a solution. One that makes security compliance easy. Vanta. Think of Vanta as your compliance wizard. They automate everything for SOC 2 and ISO 27001, turning complex security requirements into a simple, streamlined process. Over 8,000 companies, from startups to giants, trust Vanta to handle their compliance. Use Vanta so you don't get slowed down by security paperwork and focus on what matters, growing your business. Visit vanta.com/secret leaders now and get $1,000 off your first year.
So Business Leader is so cool. So you acquired Business Leader last year, and now you're pulling together proven entrepreneurs and putting them in a room together into masterminds. I find that exciting just talking about that. So their parameters to get in is 3 million revenue. Is that right?
They must have revenue of £3 million and employ 15 people.
Amazing.
And
both those things, though. Both those things. So, for example,
both of those things.
I think it's a good qualification. To do 3 million, 15 people, yeah. But you could do 3 million with one person, and
I guess my point is, for example,
but you can't have 15 people and no revenue.
Well, or no, but be interested at Heights, but we do 11 million in revenue and 14 people.
You're not in.
That's a good question. It's a good question.
Keep working on it, and
come back to it.
let me know when you've got.
Lose 8 million and get another employee, and you're in.
Yeah.
And one of the things I enjoy most is I run a growth workshop for 14 entrepreneurs and chief execs in my dining room, my home in Marylebone. I do that once a week. Wow. And talk about my 8 secrets through the my business story. But it's interactive, and I learn so much from those other entrepreneurs around the table. Yeah. They're sharing learning, and it's not just about me trying to answer their questions. It's them learning from their colleagues, and that shows the power of that that model.
It's fascinating nowadays that you get so many, I think, false prophets and charlatans and fakes online who teach all this nonsense.
Can you not talk about me once I'm right here?
You put £50,000 into a business and sold it for $4 billion. What does it cost to sit in a room with you and actually get genuine, real advice? Like, what does someone have to pay?
15 employees.
Yeah.
Come and get that advice for free, but again, you need to be turning over £3 million and employing 15 people, and then you can come to that growth workshop and then decide whether you want to make the commitment and pay the £8,000, free up 10 days a year of your time and really go for it, and will help you to become one of those large companies.
I really like the clarity of the purpose here. It's a really smart use of the funnel. We were talking about founders earlier. It's similar, but it's a different, it's a different focus. Yeah. And having the very clear objective of you're at this entry level minimum. And if you want to get to this next stage from a business point of view specifically, this is the rule of engagement. It's just very clear.
Super shared problems, isn't it? Like
totally. Do you take co-founders, by the way? As in, do you take? So Chris and I want to do it at Secret Leaders, for example. Could both of us?
I mean, we one don't have 3 million revenue, and 2 don't have 15 people.
No, true. No. But we've got 16 grand, so will you take it?
We can't break the rule.
Yeah.
So
no, I'm joking. But in general, do you take co-founders?
Yes, okay. Absolutely. And then it's about, I'm looking forward to, in 5 years' time, being able to say how many of our members have become large companies. Yeah. And for me, it'll be that sort of warm feeling in my heart that says all I did was help those members to avoid the mistakes that I made, guided them a little bit in the way to grow a business. They formed a peer group. Some of that peer group can become then their lifelong friends. Yeah, totally. But most importantly, you made it to become one of the large companies in the UK. You're going to help the economy, and that's what I'm after. That feeling.
It's interesting because there's so many entrepreneurs out there who are sitting there right now. They are working their socks off. They think to themselves, I can't take 8 to 10 days off a year. Something we talk about a lot. If you can't take 8 to 10 days off a year for your own self-development and progression as a business leader, you need to seriously change something, because it's not it's not you working the hours that makes the business work.
It comes back to the Eisenhower matrix you were referencing earlier, right? The not urgent, important quadrant.
Yeah.
You know, you need to spend as much time there, and it is absolutely the most common thing with busy entrepreneurs. And the younger you are, you realize you're working in urgent and important all the time. It's really hard to break out of that cycle, and committing to this in advance in a year we'll create those 10 days, like you just say, to make sure you're working in important, not urgent.
And it's a really difficult thing to do, but I think I would give 2 tips. Number 1 is hire somebody to do part of your job, and we've talked about that in terms of hiring your replacement. Might not even be as the chief exec, it might be as a COO or find somebody to take away some of your workload, because if all you're doing is doing and not doing any thinking, then that's about being a busy fool, and you'll only ever be doing the crisis management. You've got to be able to create some quality time. The second tip would be around create a routine and think about, how can I be more efficient? What tools can I use in order to help me in my working day? That research can now be ChatGPT. I use GoodNotes in order to write a daily notebook that then is looked at in real time by my small team that help me to be effective, a chief of staff and a management assistant and a PA. And so they can help get on with taking away some of my working week to make me more effective. How many of us spend time driving? Well, if you value your time at more than 15 or 20 quid an hour, then you shouldn't be. You need to train yourself to work in the back of an Uber and do your reading and thinking, or get the train. But that's really, really important. How do you free up time to be able to do some exercise? I don't think that unless you do some exercise during the working week, that you're going to be as effective as you can be.
Can I ask, obviously when you sell a company for 4.1 billion, you obviously end up personally being incredibly wealthy, but you are a lifelong entrepreneur. I mean, it comes across, you're doing this, you bought a company last year, you're scaling it. What does life look like outside of work for you? Because to me, you're not coming across as someone who's overtly trying to show they have money. You're fascinated by business. So what does normal life look like?
Yeah, it's spending time with my 3 kids.
How old are your kids?
They are 19, 22 and 24.
Wow.
And we have a rule now which says no material gifts. I only buy my kids for Christmas and their birthdays experiences.
Right.
And want them to do the same. So for my daughters...
so you spend a lot of time in Fortnite.
For my eldest, my daughter's 21st, it was a horseback safari in Botswana for her and her best friend. Present. And the only drawback is she had to take me along with her.
It sounds awful.
If you're a 21-year-old girl, it's a bit of a bittersweet gift.
Because your dad, like, for us,
you're
you're
still,
cool.
Still uncool.
You're an entrepreneur to us. You're cool.
Every dad's uncool.
But you're a dad, yes. You're uncool,
the issue was it was 6 hours of horse riding a day.
Yeah.
I'm a rubbish horse rider, and I don't know how I didn't manage to fall off.
Yeah.
But enjoyed that. With my my 2 boys, then we went to New Mexico and hired off-road motorbikes, and we did a week of that, and that was like the Wild West. And it was just a history lesson. It was falling off those motorbikes, riding through rivers, and it's that sort of quality time outside of work that I think is equally as important.
As a parent, you didn't inquire too much into it, but you grew up in Yorkshire. Said your dad was a civil servant, so it doesn't sound like you came from money particularly. And you, from the age of 4, you said, had this drive for entrepreneurship, this passion to do something, like real self-belief in yourself, and not giving up. persistence, all of those character building attitudes that come from a life lived a certain way. How, as a parent who now has more money than you'll know how to spend, how do you encourage your kids to have those kind of behaviors when they're going to have such a different life to what you had?
Yeah, I think it's making sure that they find their own way in life, their own careers. All of my 3 kids have had holiday jobs. So I bought my village pub over 10 years ago to save it from closure.
Yeah.
Against better advice. And
you always lose money on pubs.
I said it would look after itself, and it didn't. I lent a guy £50,000 to take over running it. He was bust within a year. Eventually found a fantastic couple that had run 2 pub restaurant hotels previously, and they became my business partners, and I gave them half the business. And the success of the village pub now is down to their hard work rather than mine. Yeah. But I told you the story because Jemima went and worked behind the bar and as a waitress, earning at the time sort of £8 an hour. My 2 boys went and have done various jobs, including sort of putting up marquees, and so there's very much about they need to know the importance of money, the importance of hard work. I was never at the breakfast table when they were growing up, unfortunately, because I'd be out the door at 5:25 a.m.
Wow.
In my sports kit, having had breakfast, getting into a car and being driven down to Birmingham. I'd stop at the gym for an hour, and then I would make sure that I was back home in Yorkshire at 6 p.m. for not every night, but 2 or 3 nights a week to be at the table for dinner.
On balance, lessons for entrepreneurs listening to you. Any regrets there? Like, would you do it differently? On one side, you built a £4.1 billion company. On the other hand, missing every morning and half, let's say, roughly, of the evenings. So on balance, on reflections, like, what do you think is more important, and what do you advise to other founders?
I think it's trying to get the right balance, and life is about making choices in the way that when anybody's formulating their business strategy, that is about choices. What's on the to-do list and the not to-do list, what should be part of the product or service. So,
don't put your kids on the not to-do list.
I think it's trying to get a balance between healthy life and exercise and diet. It's about putting time into family and into holidays, and then working really hard in the business.
Yeah.
And I think we all find it hard to sort of juggle all 3 and get that balance. But
I think you're a great inspiration in the idea of working hard in the business over a long period of time and building incredible value. I think everyone has quite the short-termism about them these days. So what does it really take to build a company worth $1 billion? And obviously your company became worth $4 billion, but what does it take from someone?
More discipline than I had. So being more focused.
I mean,
we were just hoping to get as much discipline as you at best.
Also, the thing is that he was waking up at 5 a.m.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've seen 5 a.m. That side for a long time. But you wake up at 5 a.m. You go to the gym. You work all day. Like, tell us how it works. How do you build a £1 billion company?
Yeah, it's about that. Back to those personal characteristics of determination, persistence. Knowing that you can find the breakthrough idea, following some of the guidance. And before I sort of figured out my 8 secrets, then I was a big admirer of Jim Collins and his 12 principles. I just before COVID, it was sort of autumn of 2019, and I put a bit of time together into putting an email to him to say, I've got this business called Homeserve. It's good, and we want to become great, and we're on the cusp of becoming great. Can I spend a day with you in your laboratory in Boulder, Colorado? And
to Jim Collins.
He sent me a voice tag back saying, I can't spend a day with you one-to-one, but come on my CEO's retreat for only 20 people. I do it once a year. And I didn't send him a voice tag back saying, oh, that's great, Jim. Yes, please. I sent him a cheeky one back saying, can I take my American chief exec as well? So can we have 2 places? Because Tom Roosen in the US was running the biggest part of Homeserve, and I wanted him to come along and hear from Jim Collins. So 3 weeks before lockdown globally and COVID, we turned up to spend 2 days with Jim. And great learning and experience. And some of my 8 secrets have come out of his 12 principles. He has never run a business, but he's researched what it takes to become a big and successful business and developed his principles. So I think that's really important.
What does it cost to do something like that with someone like him? Like, for context, a lot of young entrepreneurs would hear that and would think, wow, that sounds awesome. I mean, to me, that sounded awesome. But what does it cost to do something like that? Yeah,
I think what we're trying to do is almost bring what I experienced to the UK. And that is what Business Leader is all about. So
it costs £8,000 on Business Leader, but to directly answer Chris's question, it costs $100,000.
But actually, to start with, it costs nothing. If you're running that medium-sized business and you qualify as over £3 million and 15 employees, then you can come to be one of the 14 people around my dining table at 8 o'clock on a Wednesday morning for a couple of hours and come to that growth workshop absolutely free of charge.
Why is it so cheap? It is cheap. I mean, if you run a legit business, $8,000 a year is nothing. So, like, could you charge a lot more for that?
Maybe we could, but the objective is not to make money per se. This is about all we want is a financial commitment, because that will then help with your time commitment. And if everything was free, then you probably wouldn't value it highly enough and you might not show up.
Yeah.
So
it's enough to sting, I suppose, $8,000.
Yes.
Maybe.
Richard, it is truly...
Yeah, we're at time. And
we're at time. It's truly inspiring. And also what I've personally taken away, other than the attitude and persistence, I love that you're in it for the long haul. I love that you're not, buggering off to an island and, the Caribbean and just doing whatever. Like, you're here, you're helping people here. You're clearly passionate about the mission here. And the UK needs that. They need more people like you that'll commit to helping us do it here. So on behalf of both of us and all of our listeners.
Awesome.
Amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. Really enjoyed it. And the thing that I most amuses me when people say, "Oh, Richard, you've sold your business now. How are you enjoying your retirement?" I've never worked so hard in my life.
Yeah, people don't understand though. For people like you, for people like us, like, it's so fun. I sold a business. I didn't need to work anymore. I had another business, but I still do it. I love it. It's hobbyistic. Like, on the weekends, I'm like, oh,
that's it. People are like, what else would I do?
Yeah,
like, genuinely,
I love exercise. I love going out, but you can only exercise and go out so much.
Yeah.
It's just hobbyistic. I love it. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
So if you'd like your own copy of the booklet, 8 Secrets to a £1 Billion Business, go to businessleader.co.uk, put in your details and download your free copy.
Amazing. You come to the right podcast, haven't you? Business Leader, Secrets, Secret Leaders.
Unbelievable.
Exactly. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Richard.
Thank you.